So you want to work in big tech companies like Google and Facebook, or create your own startup like Airbnb and Instagram? OmniQuotient is here to help. OmniQuotient is an online learning platform where you can learn something new from prominent developers every day while creating meaningful connections with them. Just go to omniquotient.com. Follow the topics that you want to learn and the developers you want to learn from. Share your tips and tricks in coding and interact with other developers. Join the OmniQuotient community today.
Hey.
Hello. Good evening. Hi. Welcome to CTOs Discuss. And
Good evening, everyone.
Today we have a really trendy topic.
Trendy ba?
Trendy, yeah. It's green, then red, to the moon, and back to Earth, and
Or
and
back to the core of the earth for some.
yeah. There are many different attempts, and so I think this is a very, I would say, timely topic.
Timely.
Yes, we have been wanting to talk about this for quite some time already, but now
True.
I think is a good time to talk about it. So thank you for joining us. And if you have any questions, do ask it in the comments at any time and we will try to answer them. So
Yes, sir.
for today's
Game.
format, actually, I'll be more of asking the questions. I'm familiar with this, but I'm not quite the expert. But Jerb knows a lot more about this than I do, and I think he knows a lot more about this than a lot of other people. So it'd be great to really hear his thoughts on these topics.
Yep.
So, Jerb, to get us started, like, to maybe tell us, like, what's your background? How did you stumble into this thing, or did you stumble into this thing? Tell us how you got involved with blockchain and
Sige.
cryptocurrency in general.
Yeah, so a while back, diba, in our episode where we talked about IT careers, I told you guys, I mean, for the ones that are actively listening from before, no, that I used to have a job in the bank, in treasury, and I was trading cryptocurrency.
You were
This
trading cryptocurrency.
No, sorry. I was trading currencies. So
Okay.
foreign currencies at that time.
Okay.
So not with the bank. Sorry.
Okay, got it.
Good that you pointed that out. I was trading currencies at that time, no? And this was back in 2015.
Okay.
Bitcoin started in 2009, right? And then it made the news na at that time, and at that time medyo ano pa siya, experimental in nature, or like people thought that it was a scam. What is it? Like, who's in charge of it? A lot of people don't really understand what it is at that time, and a lot of people also ignored it. Ako, I was interested, but at that time I didn't buy pa, no? So it was sayang, no? So I think, did we talk about it in the last episodes? Na if I had, a time machine, I would tell myself to
I think
buy
I remember
bitcoins
this.
or mine bitcoins. Yeah. Pero the way I got into it so much, no, was that it became part of my job. No, so aside from it being more like a casual, parang ano lang thing that I can, research on. And
Okay.
eventually I bought not a whole Bitcoin but a part of it. So just to say na, hey, I'm into it, right? I'm studying this for work, studying the applications, and then parang I would say na I was gonna be a fake believer if I didn't have it, diba? So I really
you
had
to walk the talk.
Yes, exactly. So I had to walk the talk, but this talaga became very, I would say, important to me also, and then it actually affected my view about technology and how we should do things in the future. And hopefully after this podcast, it would also kindle, something from the listeners about decentralization, all the effects of it, etc. We'll talk about that later. But
tell
yun nga,
me,
it became part of my job, no?
so what's your job? What was your job?
Yeah, so I was part of the fintech team, so financial technology team in the bank. And the fintech team works with fintechs, right? And one of the fintechs that we were working with at that time was a blockchain fintech, right?
Okay. Okay.
and I cannot say their name because that would be against the law.
Okay.
But they're a blockchain company, no? So because we wanted to deal with them, no, and we know from the experts also a lot of the talks that blockchain is a game changing thing. It's going to kill the banks, etc., etc. So we studied it, right? No,
I
and at
see.
that time, Bert, like except siguro for the ones that are also pioneers in this, no? Like the ones na sila Bloom, sila Luis, the
Mm-hmm.
Satoshi guys, the ones that are sila Ron Host, no, the coins guys.
Mm-hmm.
Very little people knew about it, right? And 2017, 2018, so no, 2017, 2016, there were a lot of blockchain meetups, in fact, no,
Uh-huh.
in Manila to talk about the technology and just in general, parang it's like crypto friends, no? Parang okay, we own crypto, but we're
Okay.
also, into the technology, and a lot of the people that are into that space were also doing several things, no? That are in parang relevant siya to the whole principles of decentralization and blockchain and all that.
Okay. So just
Yeah.
a background, right? Like, because there's blockchain, there's
Yeah.
like blockchain and decentralization, and then there's like
Yeah.
cryptocurrency, which I believe like was built on top of this technology. So maybe
Yeah.
maybe you can break it down for us. Like, what's blockchain? What's
Yeah.
cryptocurrency? How are they different?
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you just lay down the
Sige.
terms for us?
So, siguro to understand it more, right? There's a saying that necessity is the mother of the invention. So, what was the necessity at that time when Bitcoin was invented, right? Or the
Okay. Yeah.
blockchain was invented? So, um, but if you look at the time, no, so this is early 2009, right? And before that was the 2008 financial crisis, right?
Okay.
And in fact, in the Genesis code of Bitcoin, right, you can see there yung there is like a comment there na it says that the timestamp and then I think it was an article of a newspaper na the banks are going to be bailed out again by the government, right? And so parang walang accountability to what happened in the 2008 financial crisis. If you guys want to know more about that, by the way, you watch Too Big to Fail and a lot of documentaries actually on YouTube as well on what happened in the 2008 financial crisis. But short of the long, no, a lot of people thought kasi talaga that the financial institutions failed the public in general and that
Okay.
ang ginawang products doon was really gonna burst, right? There was a bubble about to burst and there was a lot of um kumbaga distrust, no, to the entities that are to the authorities that are in charge of finance, right? And so the white paper of Bitcoin essentially laid out a peer-to-peer, meaning there's no middleman. We don't want to trust government or trust anybody anymore. We want to do finance peer-to-peer, right? And how do we do that, right? And so bitcoin.org actually has the white paper. You guys can read it. The very first pages are not too technical and you can understand it. So yun, it essentially was like a reaction to that, right? Like the
Okay.
2008 financial crisis na never again, parang ganon, no? And
So
the movement is decentralization, right? Like not relying on central authorities to do anything for you. So the very first applications would be finance, right? So money. Um, in the future, no, a lot of decentralized people are thinking that the internet would also be decentralized, right? That you could argue that Facebook, Google, etc., all these big companies are also quote unquote central authorities, right? And
mhm.
so there's a lot of parang thinking that because trust is centralized amongst those people, what if they mess up, right? So and so that hence the concept of, hey, let's actually be a community, right? And build a consensus across this community to operate certain things like sobrang dami, finance, internet in the future, for example, etc.
So Bitcoin was sort of created as like a reaction, like a response to
Yeah.
the distrust or the failure of
Yeah.
centralized authorities like the government, the big
Yes.
banks, the central banks, And so somebody amongst the masses said, like, we can't trust the centralized systems anymore because
Yeah.
you failed us.
Yeah.
Therefore, it's time we create something that is no longer relying on a central authority. In
Yeah.
this case, it was Bitcoin.
Yeah. And so at that time, parang a lot of the first ones really that followed this, no, were cypherpunks, no? Like mga cryptographers and also liberalists
Okay.
na I support this because this is yun nga, parang a new form of thing that no one is controlling it, right? It's really
Yeah.
purely market factors and people, right? And so
So
go
So
ahead.
that one, I have a question. So it's easy to throw words around like decentralized, nobody
Yeah, yeah.
controls it.
Yeah, yeah.
But
Sige,
how
let's
how
get to that
how does
concept. Yeah.
blockchain really
Yeah.
do this? Like, how
Sige.
does blockchain work that it's actually decentralized, and how
Sige.
can nobody actually control it?
Sige, let's define blockchain into three parts. Let's divide blockchain into three parts. The very first part that you guys need to learn is that a blockchain is actually a ledger, no? So a ledger is like a database, but for you guys that are into IT, right, or computer science, diba, when you update things on a database, you replace it, right? In a
Okay,
ledger, it's not a destructive
you
record.
just
No,
append.
meaning you always just append, right? And so
Okay,
let's say, for example, that the very first record that we said there was that Albert gave Jerb 50 pesos, and then on
okay,
the 50th record, I gave you that 50 back. We don't
okay,
erase that one sa top, no? We don't update your balance to say zero, Jerb 50, no? You have
got
to
it.
say talaga, Jerb sent money to Albert, 50 pesos. So
Yeah,
that's the first part. So it's a ledger, right? And so a ledger can be applied to anything, right? I mean, the very first use case at this time is currency. Okay, simple naman, balance naman ang imong i-keep, di ba? But in the future, who knows if you could store there, and a lot of blockchain technologies and a lot of speakers and futurists also mention na what if we can store their land titles, right? And so
yeah. Transfer
because
of
oo, 'di ba?
property.
And
Mhm.
yes, exactly. And digitize, no? Parang mawala na yung destructibility of data, right? Meaning
Okay,
no more paper, etc. And a lot of people are also thinking of applications like provenance, meaning asa gigikan ang usa ka product, for example. So are you
where it
certain
comes
that
from.
the
Okay.
oo? So if there's a ledger that you can track everything, then that's good, right? But there are a lot of ledgers, right? So what makes blockchain different, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what makes blockchain different is that in a database, usually it's centralized, but there's uh, one guy or one company that hosts it, right?
Right.
Meaning, I mean, you could put backups all you want, right? And availability zones. I'm sure you're familiar, Albert.
Yep.
But to a certain point, either through technology in the form of the machines or the authority to actually access those data and machines, it's still a bit centralized. With
Yeah.
blockchain, it's decentralized, no?
Okay.
Decentralized in a sense that anybody who actually wants to participate in the network, your computer could actually participate, right? And so
So now each computer has a copy of this ledger database. Okay.
exactly. Right? So it's not just one anymore. And so the good thing about that, it's highly reliable, right? If sa AWS ang backups mo is that you have availability zones. So these so AWS or cloud providers, what they do is they separate the floors of the servers that you actually put your
Data.
applications in, or they separate it parang physical zones, right?
Yeah.
Multiply that to tens and thousands of computers across the world, right?
Yeah.
That's the reliability of the blockchain, of a blockchain, for example. No? So
So now you have two
multiple
components.
dependencies of data.
So you
So the
have a
first one
ledger.
is a ledger. And then the
Second is that it's
second one, it's
duplicated.
distributed,
Okay.
duplicated. And because it's duplicated, it now has benefits, right? So a ledger that is distributed is now very hard to destroy, right?
Right.
If I was to delete your name, like let's go to the example of land titles, no? So if I was to change your lot name or
The
ownership,
owner of the lot, right? For
uh, uh,
example,
uh, uh,
I own the lot truly, and
yeah.
then Jerb wants to rewrite history and put his.
Today, what I can do is go to the LRA. I mean, it's not easy, but I can change it, right?
Okay.
Um, in theory,
Mission
di ba?
Impossible style, right?
Yes, yes, or burn it, di ba? That's why in some areas in the Philippines or even in some other countries, daghan sobrang daming mga violence and gulo because people actually burn the land registry or kill people just to, etc., etc. But in this case, I have to go to each and every one of the computers in the world to change that data.
Okay, it's
So
virtually
imagine.
impossible. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And then the third thing is that it's immutable. And this is where
What's
um,
immutable? It sounds like a
i-
big word.
immutability means you cannot. So once something happens, it's there. It's permanent,
Okay.
right? There's no way to delete a record on the blockchain,
Okay.
right? And so that also makes it very, very a good, yun nga, it's a ledger, it's distributed, very reliable. At the same time, immutable pa siya. So whatever you put there, you can be there's a very high certainty that that's what actually either happened or that's the actual truth of the record in effect.
So so is this the part where like each block in the chain
Yeah.
builds on top of the previous block before it,
Yeah, 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 yeah.
so
So
that you
yeah, so
cannot like edit an old block? Is that what you
yes.
mean by
Yes,
immutable?
yes, 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 yes. That's true.
Yeah.
The other thing, guys. So now this might be a very technical for some, but if you just want to understand it at a very high level, cryptography makes sure that you cannot change a record in the blockchain. So that's it. No. Now we're gonna go dive into the details. So how does cryptography do that? No. So um the reason why it's called a blockchain is because it's a chain of blocks, right? And
You-
the
I'm
way
surprised.
whoa, um, the way these blocks are chained are through hashes, Bert. No, so you
Okay.
understand a hash, right? So a hash is
Yeah.
a one way. Hindi nga siya encryption eh. One way, yeah, you could call it encryption. And di ba actually, can I share my screen? Maganda ata mag-share screen, no? Or not,
Yeah,
never
go
mind.
go. Go share your screen, bro. We'll bring it up. Let's bring it up. Share your screen and let's bring it up because I
Yeah,
think
yeah, yeah.
to go a little bit visual on this because
Yes, yes, yes,
just
yes.
imagine it's a chain of blocks. Yeah, it would be good if we can like show to the viewers, also for me. Yeah,
Wait lang. I think
sure.
I need to I think I need to allow. I've allowed it.
Yeah, go
Baka
ahead.
sila
Allow.
hang
No, no,
on.
you have to first share your screen and then they will bring it up. Our magicians and wizards behind the curtain will bring it up on the main stage. So as long as you can share it in StreamYard here.
Yeah, or baka sila Lenly can go to this site that I would send. I'm
Okay, send it
having
to me. I'll share it.
on the chat.
Okay, I got it. Now I'm gonna share this one. Okay, let me share this. Share screen. Here we
Yeah.
go. Go. All right. Okay. I see SHA256.
Sige, dyan tayo. Sige. So suppose our let's put there ABCD and let's say
Let's make this
ABCD.
more realistic. Like Albert transferred
Oh, sige,
50
sige.
pesos
To Jerb.
to Jerb. There you
Ah.
go.
And then sa baba, I say Jerb transferred Lenly
Transferred
100, let's
100
say.
pesos to Lenly.
Ayan, so game. That's it. Okay na yan. So, a hash works, guys, to a point that whatever is on the top box, so Albert transferred 50 to Jerb, and then Jerb transferred 100 to Lenly. What it actually does, it encrypts that, right? And it turns that into this fixed length bunch of random letters, right? So that's the hash for that specific information, right? And so if I change it, so let's say ang Lenly gawin nating Y,
Watch this, guys. Watch this, okay? Watch this while I
uh
change it to
so watch the one
changes.
at the bottom.
I change this to Krisha.
Sige.
There, I changed it already.
Yeah. So nagpalit din sa baba, 'di ba? So if ever, so anything, any change, actually any number or letter lang dyan. So even if letter S ng pesos, gawin mong capital, the hash would always be different, right? And so your computers actually use this algorithm a lot. In fact, ang your website, the websites, your browser actually uses this kind of technology to secure a lot of things on the internet, right? And blockchain uses this also to protect the ledger. And so how these are actually changed. So suppose this is our first block birth, no? Or
Okay.
first so this is our first transaction. What the blockchain actually does is that it takes the hash of the previous block as an input to the next block. So
So it
it
adds
take mo
it
yang
here.
so you
Yeah.
add it there. And so that's how it's chained, right? Because at any point of the blocks, if you change anything there, the next block would the next block's hash would be different, right? Gets no?
There you go. So
Yeah.
Marky
So
transfer
yeah.
money. I love transferring money now to Albert. Yeah, there you go.
So
So
there,
now, yeah.
if you guys can see, guys, on the screen, the one at the bottom box changed, diba? So that's how you know that something was changed on the block because the previous hash doesn't match anymore the one that is changed.
Oh, so if we change this one, we take this out, it changes the hash in the bottom.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, then
Even
it will not
letter,
match
guys.
this
Even
one.
if you add a period there, it would
Or
change. So
space, right?
any it would change, and so that's how this whole thing works, oversimplified, right? So if you change anything on that ledger, the hash would change, and so therefore you would know that there is tampering of the data, right? And
Got it.
that's how it works, right? And so ang tanong ngayon, so now we have, so in the story so far, we have a ledger that is distributed across the world, right? And
Okay.
it's secured by cryptography, and the very exact tech that's used is SHA-256, no? Um, your question na, so now ano ng possibilities, Bert? So now I can actually transfer money to anybody in the world that also has that ledger, right? Without
Okay.
going to a bank,
Uh-huh.
without going to Swift or any intermediary at all, right?
Okay.
There's a transfer of value already. Or let's say if someone sells me, I don't know, like MP3 or a music, or MP3 or a song, no, that the transaction can happen very quickly because it's there, it's shared, etc. Now, oh, there's question down in the comments.
Yeah, yeah. But
Sige.
before we go to the comments, I just wanna we get us a recap, right? The summary is first is it's a
A
public, it's a
ledger.
ledger, it's a public ledger, it's distributed across multiple computers, anybody can join it. So this is the whole
Yes.
decentralized concept of it. And then
Yes.
what makes it immutable, where you can trust the ledger that it's not been changed or edited by any random person, is
Mm-mm.
because of this chain of hashes that guarantee that the previous blocks were not edited or the previous transactions were not edited. So you can trust it. So trust it better per se than the centralized authorities, which we trusted, but we don't trust.
But they failed in 2008 and they're continuing to fail now.
Oh no.
Hindi,
I
just
love how
kidding,
you
just
say that.
kidding.
I love how you say
Uh,
that even while working for a bank, huh?
oh,
Okay.
we have a different I guess participation in the future. I think I very much believe. Anyway, while we're here, I'm still working for a bank.
Okay.
Um,
I
so
think we go to the questions. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Sige. Ayun, recap muna natin. So, Albert did a recap. So, what's so game-changing about this, right? So,
Uh-huh.
before the blockchain, you really have to have a middleman, right? You really have to have someone that you trust to be in the middle. And ano ba, and like, whereas before, so let's say, for example, there were no middlemen. For me to actually send money to Albert in Cebu, I have to travel, right? I have to go to Cebu and then give him money and then go back to Manila. Now with middleman, what actually happens is like let's say very manual middleman muna, no? Like my brother Eugene, he goes to Cebu, pwede kong ipadala yung pera sa kanya and then he would bring that to Albert, no? And
Mhm.
then that's how trade happened before, right? Like there were trade routes, right? Silk Road, etc. mga ganon, na people actually go to trade to different towns, and they have people actually bring money or messages, like postman, also considered also middleman, di ba? And then it evolved, right? It became banks ngayon. And
Mhm.
I mean, the reason why we go to them is because we trusted them, right? But these are people, and I mean, of course, they have a lot of policies and authorities like the central government, the central bank and governments are also regulating these people para walang fraud, etc., internal fraud. But these are people, right? And people are prone to error. The Swift hack, for example, right? Um, very much because there was humans involved, etc., etc. But yun nga, parang in the future though, and because of this, no, that future is unlocked. No, that there is now a way for trust to be automated in a sense, and that's really a big thing. No, nobody or no technology yet has been invented that before blockchain that actually did what it did now. No, so it's not just
Okay.
ngayon currencies, right? It's anything like what we said earlier, like land titles, provenance,
Yeah. So
IDs in the future.
it seems to me it's basically a decentralized form of information that you can trust. And so you can put any information there, from land titles to property
IDs,
ownership
etc. Yeah,
to
yeah.
identification to who is owning what specific like amount of currency or credits. So that's interesting. Okay, let's go to some of the questions here.
Sige.
So what do you think about SMEs making the shift towards accepting cryptos as a method of payment?
Okay. So si, 'di ba well, this is gonna be a long discussion maybe, but let's not go there na lang. I'll just say the headline though. 'Di ba Tesla started to accept bitcoins and then now they stop. But a lot of merchants and a lot of payment facilitators are already slowly accepting cryptocurrency, right, as a means of payment. But I think for SMEs, um, uh, definitely, di ba, for you, the more methods of payment that you actually allow, the better for you, right? So, for example, if you accept credit card, then people can pay because wala silang cash at that time. They can, but they want to purchase your, I don't know, a camera, for example, or a phone. Because you allowed them to actually pay through credit card, then there's business, right? And so, if you also allow people to, pay you in cryptocurrency, then it just opens up a lot of more options for you. But I think for small businesses, SMEs, um, you should either, like probably accept it, and then depends on your, I guess, risk appetite. You could either
Yeah, yeah,
hold on to it or convert it right away, right?
yeah.
And there should be services in the future coming soon that should allow you to convert crypto right away para wala kang volatility risk. In the same way as right now, if you accept payments in dollars, I
Yeah.
mean, you're also subject to volatility, right? I mean, the price of the dollar peso could change also, but
Yes,
it's not
yes.
that the swings, right? But
Yeah.
it's really up to you. But a lot of people actually are saying no na if you get paid bitcoins now, just hold on to it, and because it's the most appreciating asset to like today, 'di ba? I mean, it's true, but I mean, there's always risk. And
And
so,
maybe
hiwalay mo yung payment, right? So, to me, accepting as many modes of payment as possible is always good for business, right? It opens up a lot of options for your buyers to pay you. And so in that case, ergo, it brings you more business, right? Ibang usapan naman yung investing, 'di ba? Or actually some people call it na nga parang gambling kasi parang um
speculation.
speculation 'yon na parang I'm in it to make X 10x right away, right? I mean, there's always risk. The higher the rewards, the higher the risk. So, you
Yeah.
have to factor that in.
So for Ricardo, like I'll chime in a little bit on this. I like your example, Jerb, about like it's just like accepting another currency, right? Because we do this. Like we at Simf we have foreign clients, so we accept U.S. dollars. We can't force our U.S. clients to pay us in Philippine
Yes,
peso,
yeah, exactly.
right? But I need Philippine peso because
Yeah.
we pay our people in Philippine peso, right?
Yeah.
I can't use US dollars to pay. I have to convert it pa. So that's problematic. But if I don't accept US dollars, I won't have any business. So in order for me to get the business of my US client, I have to accept US dollars. And then so we accept US dollars. And now the risk of accepting US dollars is that if I don't convert it right away, it may go down the value of US dollars to peso. So it will like fluctuate, right? And it may go down and I might lose money on the conversion or I
Yeah.
might gain money on the conversion. Now, US dollar, Philippine peso, okay lang, right? Like for example, but it's actually kind of scary actually as well because imagine we get paid $1 million for every 1 peso change in the currency exchange. That's $1 million lost or
Yeah.
gained, right? Like
Yeah.
so it can go both ways, but it's still so scary. Like just 1 peso has huge
Yeah.
swings the bigger the amount. Now with cryptocurrency, it's so
Yeah.
much scarier because it's so much more volatile. Remember the US dollar, the 1 peso change will actually make me lose or gain 1 million pesos. With cryptocurrency, 1 peso change is very in like a minute, right? And you can swing so far depending on the
Yeah.
cryptocurrency you're using. So you could literally gain a lot of money or you can lose a lot of money in it once you're trying to convert it. So
Yep.
that's what Jerb was saying about like you can accept cryptocurrency but then change it to cash right away at the
Yeah.
moment of transaction so you don't have any exposure to risk.
Yeah. Yeah. Correct. Correct, guys. So there.
Okay, we're getting a flood of questions actually. I love this one. What
Sige.
exactly is a market cap on cryptocurrency and how do they work, Jerb?
Does mining affect the amount of crypto in rotation or something? Market cap. So market cap is not just crypto, guys. So market cap is the total capital for that specific asset, right? So I don't know. You go to the Philippine Stock Exchange, you would see the market cap for as ano ba? San Miguel, those listed companies, right?
So
Meron
my
yan. So
understanding of market cap is that it's the total amount of capital or amount of value. So it's basically like
yeah.
the price per unit times the number of units in circulation. Is that correct?
Yes, exactly, exactly. So the amount of total circulation for that specific asset, no? So it's not just
So
cryptocurrency. It's for any like traded currencies, for example. So
okay.
teka, so if you go to websites like Coinbase, they would show you the market cap for certain currencies, no? So
Okay.
yun lang yun. That's how it works, no? So a market cap wasn't born because of crypto. It also applied for other types of investments.
So market cap is
Um
basically the total amount of value. So it's a price per unit multiplied by a total number of units. So if there's like how many bitcoins are there in existence?
so uh hindi eh. Ang market cap kasi is ano eh, like total total market cap in let's say US dollars for Bitcoin. Ito.
Okay. Are you sending something to me?
Uh so wait lang. So right now, ang total market cap for Bitcoins is 910 1 2 3 trillion dollars. So that's the market cap. So market cap by definition is equal to the share price. So share price multiplied by the number of shares in circulation. So you're right, Bert. What's the total number of Bitcoins in circulation times the dollar value? So that's market cap. Ganun siya,
Got
guys.
it.
So that's how it works. Does mining affect the amount of crypto in rotation or something? It does, but different blockchains. Actually, the short answer is it does. No, so mining is actually so kanina, di ba? In our example, guys, we talked about a ledger. We talked about that it's decentralized. You know, all of the computers, like computers in the world, can actually participate in the network. And if you're a computer, you're a node to the network, and then it's immutable. No, so when Albert and I actually transact, no, right now, if you transact in a bank, you go to a teller, right? You go to
Mhm.
someone who actually writes your transaction in their ledger. So ngayon, ang
Code it
tanong
in
is
their database,
code
yeah,
like putting it in the database, right?
their
Like
system.
debit, credit, etc. Now,
Yeah.
who does that for crypto, right? So
Mm.
sa Bitcoin blockchain, ang tawag sa kanila ay miners, no? So miners uh actually I don't maybe I actually cannot recall why it's called mining, but para
Oh,
siyang
I
gold,
know, I
di
know
ba?
this part. I know
Mm.
this part because actually what they need to do, and let me pull up my, I can share my screen again.
Yeah, I know how it works, but calling it mining, does it? Kasi mining connotes that you're, digging and digging,
Oh,
right?
so they're mining because they're searching for for a hash
Yeah,
that
yeah.
they
We
will
can
include in
explain
that
that
transaction.
again. Yes, yes. Actually, that's the process, no? But you
Yeah,
could call it computing, right? Or
yeah,
guessing.
computing.
Actually,
Yeah,
guessing is the better term for mining, right? I think the reason why it's called mining is because it's like gold. You're looking for gold, right? So, sige, balik tayo dun sa example, guys, di ba? So, if Albert and I want to transact on the blockchain, we have to announce it to the whole network, right? To the network of all the computers in the world that actually participate in a blockchain. Now, what miners actually do is they actually add those transactions on the blockchain, right? And why would they do that, right? So that's the question. They do that because they're incentivized, right? So whatever are the transaction fees for those transactions that are on that specific block, they actually earn the transaction fees and at the same time a block reward, no, for adding that block to the blockchain. So in the same way as right now you pay the banks to actually put your ledger entries on their banks, right? So if for example nadagdagan yung sweldo mo, then you have to pay the banks to do that service for you. In the same way, us naman as users of the blockchain, we pay these miners to actually put those transactions in. And the way mining works, right, is that the blockchain actually requires these node miner participants to actually provide a nonce. No? So this is kind of a technical term and Albert's already ahead, no, of me doing it already.
yeah. So I
So
have to. Yeah, go ahead. I'm
yeah,
gonna be
so
like this.
so 'di ba the ones that the data that are above are those are the transactions that we've had, right? And ito yung let's say idadagdag natin sa new blockchain, no? So if let's say the previous hash was yung sa taas, no? And Albert and I want to I want to transfer 50 pesos to Albert. Albert wants to transfer 20 to Nicole. Um, the miner,
We can't just add this to the chain. We can't just
not
add this to
right
the ledger.
away.
Yeah,
Oo,
we have to
oo.
do this thing.
Yeah, so the what the algorithm actually requires, no, is for you to provide proof of work, no? So proof of work, and my question din sa comments na proof of work is. So proof of work is actually proof that you've actually solved this problem, no? So the quickest way to do that really is to guess, no? So what your computers are doing if you're actually doing mining now, like, using ASIC machines, big boxes for Bitcoin and for Ethereum, yung mga GPUs nyo. The reason why it's also GPUs, by the way, it's your GPUs have so much more compute power analyzing all these hashes versus your CPUs, right? And what they're actually doing is they're guessing. No? So they're guessing to add a random set of letters para yung output sa baba, no, would be equal to like a certain amount of zeros, actually, Bert.
Yeah, yeah, and the prefix of zeros. I had one a while ago actually. So this one, if I put 3 here, I have it begins with 10.
Yeah.
So this is not close. This is
Yeah.
totally far. What I
Yeah.
need is to have like a hash that has like maybe like the first 10 are zeros.
Yeah, first 30, first 60. So the blockchain actually adjusts
Yeah.
this
The
the
difficulty.
difficulty of this, no, so that
Yeah.
roughly every 10 minutes a new block is added to the blockchain. And so in effect, no, if you're actually transacting on a blockchain, it actually takes 10 minutes for your transaction to be published. And now ngayon parang nandito na tayo sa medyo pros and cons, no. Whereas sa bank, you could say real time, no? Kaagad na pagka nag-transact ka within the same bank, that the
Or
money is actually
I found two. I found two.
Albert is
Yeah.
having fun mining,
Okay.
guys.
Anyways, yeah. So that's what your computer would try to do until it can find something that would be for. So that's a lot of work because it's like, trying again. So that's
Yeah.
the proof of work.
Yeah, and proof of work actually secures the blockchain also, guys. Kasi what you want as a, you know, I wouldn't call it client, but as a user of this is that it's secure, right? And so if sobrang dali nito, then it's not secure, right? Because if it were too easy, anybody could do it, and so anybody could just write new blocks, right? And wala siyang ano, it minimizes the value of it because it's less secure. Now, because there's work to be done, right? So at any
Mm.
point that, let's say, I need to change something on the blockchain, I actually have to redo all that work, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Because it's compounding, diba? Every block has proof of work, and it roughly took 10 minutes for me to guess that answer.
Plus,
And
it
at the
has a
same,
previous hash.
it has the previous hash pa, coupled with the fact that it's already hash, right? I
Yeah,
mean, parang pagka may binago ka doon, mag-iiba na yung hash, di ba? And so
yeah.
proof
So
of
you have
work
to,
pa, compounding proof of work. And so if I had to rewrite the blockchain for me to just, adjust a particular transaction, I would have to do all of those work from the genesis block, from the
yeah.
start, kasi nga naka-change siya, di ba? So that's why
And
it's
you
very
have to
difficult.
raise everybody else who's also like trying
Yeah,
to add to
that's
the blockchain.
yes, that's for moving forward. Kasi at the point of fraud na I want to invent something, then I have to redo everything that has been done before, and then at the same time catch up versus the rest of the miners in the world not to actually produce that block. So it's very hard. So it's actually very not economical to do, and so not no one is actually thinking of hacking the blockchain in effect, no, because number one, it would require a lot of compute power, and so meaning sobrang dami ding investment in terms of dollars or
Might
money.
not be worth it anymore to
Yeah.
actually just change
The
it.
other thing, if ever you succeed, right, the moment that people actually know that there is a hack or a vulnerability, then the value of the Bitcoin would most likely dive, right? So
Yeah,
nobody, like, people would believe in it lesser. And so there's sobrang genius, di ba, ng ni Satoshi Nakamoto, who's the guy that actually invented this, or a group, right, in 2009 and 2010. Because they factored in not just the technology part, but really the economics or psychoeconomics also, no? Na actually, it would work against you to actually hack this network.
EJ here says actually, I like how he said it. So mining is technically brute forcing of hashes. Exactly correct. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Totoo. And you have to have a lot of compute power, and that's why they're using, for Bitcoin, special computers, right? And then for Ethereum, they're solely on graphic GPUs, or ano tawag, video cards, no. Now, because of all this compute, no, a lot of people in the crypto space and decentralization space think that this is very much not scalable, 'di ba? Kasi I mean, there's limited supply
Yeah.
of semiconductors, 'di ba? And ultimately, there's a limited supply of machines that you can produce, and a lot of power, like all the power that's required to actually, like, that the total power daw ngayon that is running on the Bitcoin blockchain can power the electricity of New Zealand, if I can recall. No, so a
What?
whole country. Yes, bro. Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
That's
Good.
a lot of power, right? And
Okay.
so other blockchains have actually moved on to another form of consensus algorithm, which is called proof of stake naman, no?
Okay.
So um binaliktad lang niya yung parang yung economics of it, right? So in proof of stake, if you actually want to mine, you have to stake an amount of coins or tokens in that blockchain to a certain address, no? Parang you have to hold it there. The reason for that is because if ever you do fraudulent transactions on the blockchain, kasi remember guys, the only reason why we did proof of work was to de-incentivize, or so parang to punish, no, a more basic term, to punish people that would do bad things on the blockchain, right? Parang, but in the case of Bitcoin, it was really more de-incentivized kasi it would not make sense for me to do anything there because number one, yun nga, parang a lot of compute power, etc. We talked about that earlier. But in this case of proof of stake, if I do something wrong, my stake is actually reduced, no? Parang punished. So I am
Really? Wait,
incent.
I'm not so sure how I understand this. So
Yeah,
I get proof of work, proof of stake. So
yeah,
like I
yeah.
actually
Eto.
stake coins. Or what?
Yes, yes. So you have to invest, right? Or say na, hey, I'm staking an X amount of, depends on the blockchain, eh. Iba't iba yung I'm not super familiar na, guys. We can actually research on it. If you guys have questions on that, I can actually answer that very specifically, maybe in the comments. But the way proof of stake works is that di ba sa mining, any computer can just participate right away and then mine. In proof of stake, if you want to be a validator, so validating naman yung tawag dito, no? If you want to be a node validator, you have to stake a certain amount of tokens or money, no? And so only limited people are actually going to do that, right? And so the way it works is that the blockchain actually selects a random node validator to add another node to the blockchain, Bert. No, so whereas
Okay.
in kanina, in proof of work, everybody, all nodes would have to compute for that brute force, no? And so it's a lot of inefficiency kasi nga everyone's solving for the same problem. Sa proof of stake naman, ang ginagawa is it actually selects parang may lottery, no? Na it
Okay.
actually selects that okay, this guy who staked this much money is actually the one that will add new blocks to the blockchain. Ganun siya. They still do the hashing, they still do all of that to secure it, but not everyone's gonna do that anymore.
So
No?
no, not much competition going on.
There is walang competition, exactly. Ang nagiging competition na lang is parang ano siya, based on luck, parang ganon, di ba?
Okay.
Na kung sino yung mapili dun sa mga node validators. So what happens if me as a validator make a mistake, no? So if I make a mistake, then I actually get penalized, no? So my stake is ma-reduce yung stake amount ko, etc. Ganun siya. So they penalize bad actors also. Para ma-balance ulit, no? Kasi yun nga, what if I as a validator, iba yung nilagay ko doon, di ba? Kasi earlier, the reason why it's impossible to do that is that everyone would put, let's say the real transaction was Albert gave me 1,000 and then gusto ko, Albert gave me 1,000,000. Diba?
Mhm.
So, in proof of work, that would have been futile because I was the only one that wrote 1,000,000 on my blockchain, on my ledger, but everyone else, 99.99% of the blockchain wrote 1,000, right? So, hindi siya papasa. But in this case, because there's only one guy that actually does the writing, he can do whatever he wants, right? And so, to mitigate that, pwede kang i-punish ng blockchain. Actually, if you do a fraudulent transaction. So there's a process for that, no? Parang dispute process.
Okay.
Na
So
nangyayari.
the way I understand it, proof of stake. The way I'm hearing it, proof of stake is kind of like a response to or an iteration to
Of
say
proof of work.
instead of like being very expensive computing power that consumes a lot of energy, proof of stake is another attempt at disincentivizing fraud, but keeping it low energy.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Parang mas cost efficient, environment friendly, diba?
Got it.
And like Ethereum used to be in proof of work, but they're also moving to proof of stake soon. Cardano is proof of stake. A lot of
Is
the blockchains,
Bitcoin?
no, proof of work's a Bitcoin, bro.
Okay.
There's actually pros and cons, no, with both.
Okay.
Yan.
All right.
There. So you want to move on to next questions, Bert, that you have
Yeah,
before we
there's-
go back to the comments?
Okay, let's. I have a question here actually. Okay, let's dream a little bit. What's your future vision? Like, what's the ideal future that you see blockchain really playing out here? What's like? Paint us a picture of the future if it turns out the way you expect it to turn out.
Yeah, like super future, I think, guys, is I think most of the finance that we see today would be different na and automated in the future, right?
Okay.
A combination of AI, right? And a ledger that is permanent, immutable, and distributed very, very much like highly dependable.
Okay.
Could be the infrastructure of the future, really, no? Na where most people would be just, interacting peer to peer. There's lesser middleman. And I think the way we see these middlemans right now, like even to the point of cloud providers, Bert, mga ganun. There's also decentralized web now, no? Like there's a decentralized storage for files called IPFS, Interplanetary File Storage.
Wow.
Ganon, no? I believe this is really the future state, no? And I think this technology would just continue to evolve. And coupled with AI, I think ito talaga yung future, no? Na there's just automation, and it wouldn't make sense for us to use a ledger that is tamperable for very sensitive things moving forward. So I think the way this technology opened up a lot, there's really a lot of applications. So medical records, for example, provenance, supply chains, um, uh, credit score, if you could probably apply it, no, identity. Some countries have actually experimented on it on voting, no, kasi yun nga eh.
Interesting. So
Kasi the moment that you vote, it's actually nobody can change it anymore, di ba? I mean, I think the problem with voting is the before the blockchain part. No, how can you secure that? But after the vote is actually put on the blockchain, nobody can change it na, di ba? Like people can actually check if my vote has been changed, or the technology actually does not allow for that to happen. So there's multiple applications really.
I'm curious. I'm curious. I mean, especially because you have a background in banking. Um, if you per se take out the middleman or like the centralized authority, like a bank, right
Yeah.
on the financial system, and you have a decentralized financial system, what would be like the potential business models of banks in the
Yeah,
future?
so I think in the future, so the downside of decentralization is that you're in charge of a lot of things, right? And so in blockchains or
Sorry, the
Bitcoin,
downside of decentralization
is you're in charge, no, of everything.
who's
Diba
you?
before the end user. So for example, in
Okay.
Bitcoins, um, if you created a wallet on the blockchain talaga and didn't rely on a third party like CoinsPH or Binance, for example, then you're
Mhm.
probably familiar of the concept of private keys. So private keys
Yeah.
naman are, it's like your password to access your funds in the blockchain, right?
Mhm.
Whereas today in the bank, diba, your password is either your face, your signature, or your password to your online banking, the OTP, all of that, right? So it's
Yeah.
a proof. It's a way to prove that you are who you say you are for you to be able to transact, no? So in the blockchain, that's your responsibility to keep that private key, that password. And mind you, if you lose that, you cannot
That's it.
retrieve it anymore.
Yeah.
Nobody can help you because there's no middleman who's actually safeguarding those keys, right? So I think one very obvious use case for banks in the future, or trusted parties, would be custodians of private keys, most likely, right? So there
That's
are
interesting.
hardware wallets, diba? The other thing is there's if but if you have time, no, and in your spare time, research about decentralized finance, so DeFi.
Okay.
So DeFi is part of the decentralization movement, right? And it's essentially decentralized finance, no? So people are actually lending, like, the very first, no, let's, sorry guys, medyo my thoughts are kind of kalat here. Let me backtrack. No? The very first use case of blockchain was that it's a ledger, right? So you write certain things there and it's immutable. You cannot change it. Ethereum changed the game because Ethereum actually made it, si Vitalik Buterin, ang innovation niya is that you could actually put code, immutable code or programs into the blockchain, right? And these are called smart contracts. No? So
Mhm.
when you put a contract, so let's say for example, a very simple one would be a betting contract, Bert. Let's say. So let's bet that tomorrow it will be sunny in Cebu. And if it's
Okay.
sunny, I would give you 50 bitcoins or 50 Ethereum. So we
Okay.
deploy that contract on the blockchain. We both sign on it on the blockchain, right? And so if ever it rains tomorrow, right, that contract would automatically, and again, this could
Mm.
be, what do you call this? Partnered with either AI or like a program to look at the weather, for example,
Mhm.
right? So as soon as 6 p.m. hits and
Yeah.
walang
Code
rain,
executes.
the code executes, right? And
Okay.
so the I give you 50 bitcoins right away, right? And so imagine the applications like insurance, for example. The moment that you get hit by a car, or something triggers, right? And this could be paired with IoT, for example, and AI again, di ba? That the moment something actually happens, you get your um insurance, anong tawag dun? Uh
Your Benefit?
Yeah, the benefit, 'di ba? Parang nakalimutan ko, ako pa naman yung taga-finance. But
Your
um
payout.
you get the payout right away, 'di ba? Wala nang keme-keme, as long as
Conditions have been
the
met. Yeah.
terms or the conditions of the contract has been met, then it's good, right? And so deals in the future could be written on a blockchain, right? And it could execute right away, right? And it see there's because code and programming is now involved,
Mm-hmm.
then there's really plenty of like applications moving forward, right? And
This is
it's
so interesting.
exciting, 'di ba?
So this,
Parang
I've heard about this actually. It's a good thing that you're bringing this up because yeah, this is sparking my interest again to look into like what are the actual applications you can build.
yeah, and this is
You
why I
know of any
always
actual right now like being used like right now that
sa
that
DeFi
smart contract.
marami. So you can
Okay.
actually take out a loan, crypto,
Uh-huh.
in DeFi, no? I forgot
Okay.
the company that actually allows that. But there are companies or smart contracts that are deployed on the blockchain, no? That you actually can lend people money or ano. And in the future, I think there's gonna be more products that are going to be there in the future. And I think going back to the first question and the the responsibilities moving forward of intermediaries or mediators would probably be a participant there. They could be a lender, yeah, one of the biggest lender on that specific ano, but they're now participating in the platform. They're not the platform or the only product provider. Now there's this, code piece of code. They call it decentralized apps, so dApps, no? That you can actually, participate and put money there so people can actually lend. And the benefit to us end users is that we can review the code, we can see if it's fair, right?
Right, because it's
And
public.
walang debate, 'di ba? There's no block box. We don't right now you don't see how the banks do things, right? I mean, there's also a reason for that, but in some cases because there is, uncertainty, then pwedeng maraming mangyari din, internal fraud, etc., etc. But those things could be automated na in the future. And if you have something like this that, gives us the capability to trust the data that we see as is, it's pretty powerful, really. Pretty powerful.
Got it. All right, we're coming down on our schedule here. So let's try to I hope I can get like quick short answers to some of the
Sige, game.
remaining questions. So the first one that I got before this okay, this one. Thoughts on NFTs?
Um, I don't know what you want me to say, but I think so NFTs are non-fungible tokens. So Bitcoin, Ethereum, etc. Those are fungible, right? Parang an Ethereum that I have is the same as an Ethereum that Albert has, and they're interchangeable, 'di ba? Fungible siya. Non-fungible tokens can represent art, music, anything that can be unique, right? I think the applications of NFT should be digital assets, no? It's hard kasi to have a physical asset and then you convert it to a digital one. I mean, pwede siya, but the custody of that physical asset, that microphone, for example, or a piece of land, it's still physical, right? So who holds that, etc. But for NFTs, I mean, okay siya. I think it's a way to appreciate art moving forward, differently. Okay siya. Yeah.
Okay,
It's a long discussion.
no
Yeah.
worries. Let's go to the other ones. What
It's a good
okay,
application of blockchain though. What
what
are
are
your
your thoughts on the environmental impacts of mining coins?
Yeah, we talked about it earlier na, 'di ba, na and yun nga yung reason ni 'di ba, ni Elon Musk for pulling out of Bitcoin because of the environmental concerns daw. Totoo yun. I mean, it's real. Like, a lot of power is being used to support the blockchain, Bitcoin blockchain to be specific. And yeah, it's seriously has environmental impacts.
Right. I actually have I came across a comment that actually made me also kind of like ponder. It's like,
Mm.
yeah, we always look at the blockchain and the Bitcoin and the environmental impact that is as of the energy that is required to support Bitcoin. But have we also stopped to actually think
The
of the
current
energy requirement to support the current financial system,
Yes.
right?
Yes, I
Like,
was about to say that also. Go ahead, Bunabert.
but and I don't know if it's more or less. I think it's more Obviously, like
I mean,
a lot.
historically speaking, because it's been around more than, right? So it
Yeah,
is more, right?
to
And
print out all the cash, to print out all
not
this
just,
currency, to
yeah,
digital as well, maintaining the
yeah.
databases.
Not just that, but also the people, right? Like a lot of people are working for banks, working for all these intermediaries, and those guys could potentially in the future be doing other jobs, right?
Okay.
Whereas, ngayon we spend a lot of not just money or environmental, but parang, valuable resources. People, time is valuable, right?
Okay, weird question. Since I mean, cryptocurrency or blockchain relies heavily on cryptography, and in the
Ah,
future we're talking about quantum computing
yeah.
making a big impact on cryptography. How do you think quantum computing or quantum computers will affect these cryptocurrencies?
It poses a real threat, right? I mean, 'di ba, you're familiar with Shor's algorithm, and with that, you could
I am not
potentially.
familiar, but go ahead.
Sige, but basta like quantum computers, I'm not super familiar also, but with quantum computers kasi you have enough compute power to actually threaten actually not just the blockchain but a lot of the things that we have now or rely on now for
Okay.
security. So imagine if given a public key using Shor's algorithm, you could reverse
Oh,
engineer
that one.
that
Yeah.
to a private key. And so right now kasi guys, so for you to transact on the blockchain, 'di ba, you have to have that password, your secret key, your private key which you keep with you, no? And if you lose it, wala na. But what you share on the blockchain or to people is actually your public address, no? So it's like your account number in the bank, no? So imagine if right now speaking with the current infrastructure, imagine if you Albert gives me his account number and I have the power to actually
Find out the private
forge
key.
forge Albert's signature, his face, etc. Ganun ka powerful tong quantum computers now. So I give you the public address and then I in very short time, I think the shortest time is 30 minutes, reverse the private key. So I can now transact. Um
Mm, yeah.
access your public address and your account, all your bitcoins, right? So what
Yeah.
they actually did in 2010 or 2011, Bert, if I recall correctly, is that they publish a new way to do transactions now. Although you can still do it, I think, in the old way. So right now, kasi, di ba, you always have to reveal your public key to create a transaction. With the update, you now have the option to use a hash of your public address. And so your public address is hidden from sight, right? Pero the moment that you actually take money out of your public address, then your public address is noted on the blockchain, right? And so the perpetrators could see your public address and then reverse it. And so ang ang advice ng a lot of experts is that you only use your public address once, right? And you burn it. You create a new address
Oh,
for new things, and then you don't disclose your public address. Similar as you don't disclose your account number today, no? Para mas secure ka.
so it's like you're using
Um,
burner phones, so you can't be tracked.
ganon siya. Kasi there's really no way to to combat it, I guess. No? Kasi in 30 minutes time, so as long as it takes longer, kasi right now, new transactions on the blockchain require like at average 10 minutes, right? So if the perpetrator needs 30 minutes to actually get access to your private key, then wala siyang window to actually change the transactions, right? Kasi 10 minutes yung mga transactions sa blockchain eh. But the moment that you use the same public address, then he would have received, he would have got a list already of the public addresses that were used and then the private keys involved. And so if ni-reuse mo yon, may balance doon, then makukuha niya yun. Yeah.
Mm,
So
got it.
it poses a real risk. That's the
All
short
right.
answer.
But I think the comfort here is that it poses a risk to so much more than just cryptocurrency. It poses such
Yeah.
a risk to so many industries
Yeah, a
that
lot of the things that we have now, SSL, yung HTTPS na nakikita niyo sa websites, those are built on private
yeah,
public key
infrastructure.
infrastructure. And
Yeah.
if those things are can be decoded using quantum computers, then it's a real risk for everything so far, really. So
The price
things
of
have to adjust.
advancement, no? The price of
Yeah.
advancement.
True, true,
We
true.
we burn the old to benefit from the new, right? Like
Yes. Yeah. The good thing about this though, Bert, is that a lot of money is being invested into these things, right? And so there's a lot of innovation happening, right? And they know all these things, right? There's a lot of smarter people than both of us that are working on these consensus algorithms, etc., securing the whole
yeah,
thing. So
yeah.
yeah. So yeah. Next
As
question, I
long
guess. I
as
don't know,
yeah,
crypto,
let,
etc.
let's go. Lenly, feel free to throw us the questions. We want to answer everybody here. Is it easier to mine smaller cryptos, or is it just the same? Just same that it's more rewarding to do BTC or Ethereum.
So smaller cryptos, yeah, most likely, kasi the degree of difficulty at the start of these networks would be lesser, right? So like a laptop could probably mine better if it's proof of work, ah. But if proof of stake, um, actually it doesn't rely so much on compute power anymore. It's more of the stake, no? So if, for example, you want to mine and it's proof of stake, then you have to invest in that currency, like Cardano, for example. But for proof of work blockchains, yeah, the earlier the better. Oo. Kasi the difficulty is like lesser.
Yeah.
And then also, I think with earlier kasi there's fewer competition also, 'di ba, to mine.
Right.
So because there's fewer competition, there's more chance for you to actually solve that puzzle earlier.
So, and there's also actually the downside as well here is that the earlier the coin is or the crypto is, it's also higher volatility, right?
True.
And
Yeah.
higher volatility.
Or
So,
or risk also kasi wala pa masyadong tao on that blockchain, right? And so actually the longest chain is the one that's most reliable, right? And so kung yung blockchain is kakasimula pa lang, ICO, kaka-ICO lang, medyo risky siya kasi
yeah, yeah, yeah.
pwede siya mag-zero talaga, 'di ba? Like I mean, especially now that it's a bull market, right? And a lot of people are joining in because of FOMO, meaning fear of missing out or greed, right? And they're seeing it as a alternative form of investment. Um, sobrang daming bumibili ngayon, so tumataas yung value, right? And I mean, there's a lot of with smaller currencies, right? And especially if the market caps are smaller. So maybe later this is the advice, quote unquote, right? Um, one big seller could actually bring the whole market down, right? So a lot of people kasi right now are also parang whales, right? They hold a lot of tokens, right? And so if they see at a certain point that they've reached their target for investing, then they would just dump all their coins and sell it, and then ikaw na individual trader ka lang, wala, you're left with zero. No one wants to buy your token anymore because they bought from the whales, except uh, for example. Now, on the flip side naman, for these smaller cryptos, one major buyer could also raise the price right away, right? So it's really, what was the term that you, said earlier? But
Speculation.
yeah, it's speculation. It's risk rewards. The more risk, the more rewards, obviously. And yeah,
Yeah. If you
um,
can, if you have the gift of being able to sense, all the what the market is saying, what the people are saying, the clamor, and you can predict if more people will buy than sell this coin by tomorrow, then you're gonna make a lot of money.
yeah.
But if you fail to predict because everybody else is also predicting they will be like that, so therefore they're acting in the other way, then yeah,
Yeah,
it
it's really driven by greed din kasi ngayon eh. Like a lot of
yeah.
people, like a lot of blockchains that are launching are, getting mga influencers, right, to hype up the product. And so at the start, the value really goes so high. And then these influencers or sikat na mga YouTubers or artistas, I mean, they want to make money, right? Like they were given most likely, di ba? Parang they'd probably given a million, I don't know, Albert tokens. Let's say Albert does an ICO tomorrow. And then he
Woo!
contacts people, right? Albert builds this blockchain that is very fast, very efficient, etc. And then he wants support for his project. That's why he does
Then
an
hey
ICO,
guys.
diba?
Mhm.
And then he promises me. So let's say I'm very famous. He promises me,
I love how you
Jerb,
turn this. The
I'll
Jerv
give
is
you.
now the famous one. Okay, go Jerv.
Ako, bibigyan ako ni Albert ng 10 million Albert tokens, 'di ba? So at that time, zero value 'yun, 'di ba? Wala namang value yung Albert tokens, eh. Bibigay lang na sa akin. as soon as, let's say, after the ICO, a value is also agreed, and then it goes up, let's say $2 na, no, after a week, why would I, like, if I were, greedy, I would hold on to it, but most likely I would also sell, no? And a lot of those selling could drive down the price kasi nga
Right.
parang wala namang, a lot of these new things actually are alternatives lang of previous more, I would say relevant blockchain applications, right? Like Ethereum's really good, Bitcoin is the godfather, of course. Cardano's also very good. So those things would, para sa akin ha, this is just my opinion, really have a future. But like a lot of these altcoins and meme coins, medyo ano lang siya, wala siyang fundamental value kasi nga they're just alternatives of these previous blockchains, no? So if you wanna invest, look for projects that you actually believe in. So ako, I actually really believe in Ethereum, right? And um, I would be a hypocrite naman to say that I'm not investing in these altcoins for proprietary gains. I am, but I have training to do it, no? Because I've did trading before. So if you want to be serious about this, like day trading, not really, kasi investing kasi guys means that you put the money there and it kind of like midterm, long term. You don't, in and out na trading. So day trading though, like I trade actively, like every hour of the day or every day, I would look at my position, I buy and sell, etc. Those things you can do, and I would suggest don't focus on fundamentals anymore kasi a lot of these things are speculative na talaga eh. And a lot, parang tabi na nga ng mga tao, parang more of gambling siya. So if you want to study, look at technical analysis, no? So study charts, no? How those patterns come, like, sort of predict the future, and that's the tool I use to trade. And
Yeah,
yeah,
I've
so I guess
heard
that's the
that.
advice. Research ka. Oo.
Yeah, I've heard that you don't nowadays, in order to make money out of coins, not only do you need technical analysis, but you actually need to know also social media analysis.
Yes, kasi ang daming ano lang eh, parang
hype
pump,
hype driven.
and then
Yeah.
they dump the coins. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And then ikaw na late ka to the news, no? So there's also a saying in investing na buy on rumor and then sell on news, right? So parang for example, yung announcement ni Elon Musk, or 'di ba he guested in a show, and then after that there was a lot of selling kasi wala masyadong excitement after that show or after what Elon Musk talked about in Dogecoin. So the price went down, but a lot of that actually is priced in already, right? So there's rumor pa lang or there's news that Elon Musk will talk, right? And every time Elon Musk talks about Dogecoin, the price goes up, right? So a lot of people would factor that in already to the price, and they would buy na or something, no? Before it actually happened. And ikaw, inaantay mo pa na, hindi, May 13, or kailan ba yung date na yun? Magsispeak si, I will buy. Late ka na, di ba? So, anyways, it's actually a good, a skill to actually also invest time on, like trading, technical analysis. Yeah.
Another question here from Charles. Sorry, from yeah, it's Charles. Thoughts on Elon Musk's control or not on coins or tokens?
Because na nga it's a very speculative market, um,
He's the
like
ultimate YouTuber influencer, no?
parang ganun, oo.
Yeah.
Pero I'm also reading that Elon is quite serious about Doge and he wants to participate in the project, right?
Oh no, the
So
price of Doge just went up.
yeah, it did, di ba? When that news nga came out. Yeah, so yun. So I guess, yeah, I mean, it was a meme coin talaga. I mean, the purpose of that talaga was to ridicule these ICOs and random tokens, no? And yung ginawa lang niya is random. Parang ano lang, parang Shiba Inu nga yung di ba? So it was really a meme. But now, I guess, if people want to take it seriously and, let's say, in this case kasi Elon's not just an influencer, but he has the resources to actually make things happen, right? And if the whole like community of Doge actually, supports, or if his ideas are good, then kasi these are all community based and birthday. There's not one, and there's no president of Dogecoin, right? Like 'di ba si Elon, he calls himself the Doge father, but he doesn't hold all the power, right? It has to be the community that decides. Kaya nga siya decentralized, 'di ba? And that's the whole principle behind it. So but because he is Elon Musk, he is also an enabler, right? So who knows? Who knows?
All right. Do we have other questions?
Yeah, kasi we've kind of extended, guys. So
All
hopefully
right.
it's
I
fine.
think pretty much that's it. So if you have other questions, feel free to put them in the comments. Jerb and I will go through them and we'll answer the ones that we'll answer all of them as much
Yeah.
as we can. But if we don't know the answer, we'll also just say, right? So thank you very much for joining this live stream. If you also have suggestions for what our next topics will be, please do also put them in the comments so that we can cover them. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you,
And
guys. Hope you learned new things today and
all right.
applications of blockchain. See you next
Good
week. Bye
night.
bye. Good night.
So you want to work in big tech companies like Google and Facebook, or create your own startup like Airbnb and Instagram? OmniQuotient is here to help. OmniQuotient is an online learning platform where you can learn something new from prominent developers every day while creating meaningful connections with them. Just go to omniquotient.com. Follow the topics that you want to learn and the developers you want to learn from. Share your tips and tricks in coding and interact with other developers. Join the OmniQuotient community today.